What would you do if the one you trusted the most turned out to be a fraud? Could your loyal companion, the one who loves you unconditionally, be the only one who sees the truth? In a small town where danger lurks behind charming smiles, Kezia's life is about to be turned upside down. But it's not the man she trusted who will save her. It's her beloved monkey, Tutu. Get ready for a heart-pounding tale of betrayal, loyalty, and the shocking truth that no one saw coming. Will Kezia escape the trap set for her, or will she fall victim to a dangerous deception? If you're hooked by this story so far, don't forget to hit that like button, share this video with your friends, and leave a comment below. Let us know what you think of Tutu's incredible loyalty and bravery. And if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to our channel for more thrilling, heartwarming stories like this one. Your support helps us keep bringing you the best content. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for more. In the heart of Savannah, Georgia, where life takes its time and everyone is like family, there's a town full of warmth and charm. The cobblestone streets are lined with tall oaks draped in Spanish moss, and the air is filled with the sweet scent of blooming magnolias. In this place, neighbors always greet each other with a smile, and nothing stays a secret for long. At the edge of town, near the quiet woods, stands a cozy cottage, a little haven that belongs to Kezia Harper. At 28, Kezia is known for her gentle spirit and her love for animals. But behind her kind eyes lies a story of loss. 5 years ago, a car accident changed everything, taking her parents from her in an instant. Since then, the cottage they left behind has been her safe space, a place where she can remember them while finding her own way in life. But Kezia isn't alone. Bounding through the cottage with playful energy and curious eyes is Tutu, a young female capuchin monkey with a heart as big as her spirit. Tutu isn't just a pet. She's family. She's the one who filled the silence in Kezia's life, becoming her loyal companion and emotional support. Kezia had rescued Tutu from a laboratory where she had suffered through cruel experiments. In a way, they rescued each other. Kezia gave Tutu a second chance at life, and Tutu brought light back into Kezia's world. Their bond is special, something everyone in town notices. She's not just a monkey, Mrs. Thompson, the sweet old baker from the corner shop, often says with a smile. That little one's got a soul, mark my words. And it's hard to argue with her. Tutu isn't like other animals. Her big, dark eyes seem to understand everything happening around her. She helps Kezia in ways that surprise even the closest of friends. If Kezia can't find her keys, Tutu scurries off and brings them back. When Kezia is feeling down, Tutu climbs onto her lap, wrapping her tiny arms around Kezia's neck, as if to say, "I'm here. You're not alone." On days when the memories of her parents feel too heavy, it's Tutuku who brings comfort, sitting quietly by Kezia's side or curling up in her arms. It's a connection that goes beyond words, a silent language only they seem to understand. The townspeople adore Tutu. Kids stop by the animal shelter where Kezia works, hoping to catch a glimpse of the clever monkey. Adults chuckle at her playful tricks, but respect the way she watches over Kezia. But there's something else about Tutu, something more than her playful charm. She's got a sense for things. One of the neighbors once said, "Remember that summer storm?" Tutu started acting funny, pulling at Kezia's hand like she knew something was coming. Sure enough, within minutes, the skies opened up. Some believe Tutu has a sixth sense, an ability to sense danger before it happens. Kezia doesn't put much stock in those stories. To her, Tutu is simply a loyal friend, a friend who has been through hardship and survived just like her. As the sun begins to set over Savannah, painting the sky in shades of gold and pink, Kezia and Tutu sit together on the front porch of their cottage. Kezia leans back, feeling the cool evening breeze, while Tutu perches beside her, watching the world with curious eyes. For now, everything feels peaceful, safe. But peace in a town like Savannah is delicate, like the first blossoms of spring. It doesn't take much to disrupt it, and while Kezia's heart remains open and trusting, Tutu's instincts, sharpened by everything she's been through, are already picking up on something. A shift in the air, a sense of something coming, something or someone who could change everything. The bond between Kezia and Tutu is strong, but will it be strong enough to protect them from what lies ahead? It was one of those perfect sunny mornings in Savannah, where the air felt fresh and the town seemed to hum with life. Kezia was making her usual rounds at the local farmer's market, the place where she'd always felt a sense of peace. With Tutu, her loyal little monkey, sitting on her shoulder, Kezia weaved her way through the stands, exchanging friendly hellos with the townspeople she'd come to know well. That's when she first saw him, Aaron. He was standing beside a stall that sold fresh produce, leaning casually against the wooden crates, looking every bit the part of a man who had just moved into town. Tall, with a broad frame and warm brown eyes that made him seem approachable, Aaron's smile could light up the entire space. He seemed so natural in the bustling market, yet there was an air of mystery about him. Aaron was a butcher who had recently opened a shop down the road. Word of his arrival had spread fast throughout Savannah, and everyone seemed eager to meet him. His reputation as a skilled butcher, paired with his charm and easygoing nature, made him well-liked almost instantly. People admired his Texas drawl, the way he carried himself with such confidence and kindness. It didn't take long before he had made a name for himself in town. When Kezia first met him, there was something about Aaron that drew her in. He wasn't just another stranger in town. He had a way of making you feel comfortable almost immediately. He was always polite, offering warm smiles and making small talk with the locals. There was an easy quality to his presence that made Kezia relaxed in his company. Aaron's kindness didn't stop at casual conversation. He soon began courting Kezia, with thoughtful gestures that seemed to show how much he cared. He brought her flowers from the market, gave her homemade jams, and sometimes dropped by the animal shelter where she worked just to say hello. The gifts weren't grand, but they were genuine, small tokens that made her feel special. In return, Kezia started to enjoy his company more, finding herself looking forward to his visits. But there was one thing Kezia couldn't ignore: Tutu, her little monkey, who had been with her through thick and thin, was growing more and more unsettled whenever Aaron was around. At first, Kezia thought it was just jealousy. After all, Tutu had been her only companion for years, especially after the loss of her parents. But as time went on, Tutu's behavior only grew more odd. Tutu would growl softly under her breath whenever Aaron got too close, her small eyes locking onto him with an intensity that Kezia couldn't quite explain. It wasn't the kind of growl that came from being annoyed. It was something deeper, instinct. Tutu wasn't just annoyed or protective. She sensed something was off. The small monkey, usually so friendly and trusting, refused to take any treats from Aaron, even when he offered them with a smile. Kezia tried to brush it off at first. Maybe she's just not used to him, she told herself. Tutu had always been a creature of habit, and she was known to get attached to her routines. But there was a nagging feeling in Kezia's chest. Something wasn't right, and no matter how much she reassured herself, she couldn't quite shake the discomfort Tutu's behavior was causing. When Aaron would visit, Tutu would retreat into the corner, staring at him with sharp, watchful eyes. The little monkey would never leave Kezia's side, but it was clear that she wasn't comfortable. Kezia would try to convince Tutu that Aaron meant no harm, but deep down, a small voice inside her wondered if there was something more she wasn't seeing. The more Kezia thought about it, the more she realized that Tutu's instincts had never been wrong before. She trusted that little monkey more than anything else in the world. And if Tutu was uncomfortable, maybe there was a reason for it. Still, Kezia couldn't bring herself to believe that Aaron, who had been so kind to her, could be anything but genuine. But Tutu knew something that Kezia wasn't yet able to see. And as time would reveal, Tutu's instincts were about to play a crucial role in protecting Kezia from a danger that no one could have predicted. As time passed, Aaron continued to weave his way deeper into Kezia's life. His charm was undeniable, and his generosity seemed almost too good to be true. He often visited the animal shelter, offering help with the animals and making large donations to support Kezia's work. The townspeople began to view him as a kind-hearted man with a deep appreciation for animals, and Kezia was no exception. She couldn't help but feel grateful for his support, and she began to look forward to their time together. But there was something unsettling about Aaron, something that Kezia couldn't quite put her finger on. Tutu, however, wasn't as easily fooled. The usually calm and affectionate monkey became increasingly agitated whenever Aaron was near. Tutu would growl softly, a low, unsettling sound that sent a shiver down Kezia's spine. And whenever Aaron would try to offer Tutu treats, she would refuse, her eyes never leaving him. Kezia thought nothing of it at first. After all, Tutu was protective by nature. But as the days went by, Kezia couldn't help but notice how Tutu seemed to follow Aaron around whenever he visited, her eyes always watching him from a distance. Still, she brushed it off, attributing it to Tutu's usual behavior. Aaron, for his part, continued to woo Kezia with his attentiveness and romantic gestures. He showered her with gifts, flowers, dinner dates, and promises of a future together. He even offered to help her expand the shelter, telling her that she deserved to have her dreams come true. Slowly, Kezia began to open her heart to him, believing that he might just be the one she had been waiting for. But Tutu wasn't fooled. Her unease grew with each passing day, and she became more watchful of Aaron's every move. Kezia, blinded by Aaron's kindness, didn't understand. She continued to trust him, believing that he was the perfect partner, even though Tutu's instincts screamed that something was wrong. One evening, Kezia was working late at the shelter, attending to the animals who needed her care. She had told Aaron she would be busy, so he wouldn't be coming by. But just as the night grew dark, Aaron arrived at her cottage, his usual charming self. "I thought I'd surprise you," he said with a smile, and Kezia couldn't resist his warm gesture. "Thank you for coming," Kezia said, though a part of her felt a sense of discomfort as she noticed Tutu's odd behavior, her intense stare, her growling under her breath. Kezia excused herself to check on a few things in the shelter and asked Aaron to make himself at home. As she was busy with the animals, she didn't notice that Tutu had quietly slipped out of the cottage, moving with purpose toward the direction of Aaron's butcher shop. It wasn't until Kezia had finished her work and stepped outside that she realized Tutu was missing. A sense of unease washed over her. She called out for the monkey, but there was no answer. As she scanned the yard, she heard a faint scratching sound coming from the direction of the butcher shop. Her heart skipped a beat. Tutu had never gone near the shop on her own. Kezia grabbed a flashlight and hurried outside, her heart racing. The streets were eerily quiet as she approached the butcher shop. The door was slightly ajar, and through the crack, she saw the silhouette of Tutu moving inside. Without thinking, Kezia rushed toward the shop, her steps quickening as she neared the back entrance. She pushed the door open just enough to peer inside. Her breath caught in her throat as she witnessed a scene that made her blood run cold. The back room of the butcher shop was dark, the air thick with the scent of raw meat. But it wasn't the familiar sight of the butcher's usual stock that alarmed her. It was the cages. In the dim light, she could make out several cages stacked in the corner, and the unmistakable sound of rustling. Inside, the cages were exotic animals, monkeys, birds, and even endangered species, their eyes wide with terror. Kezia froze, her mind racing. What was Aaron doing? Why were these animals here? It became clear to Kezia then that Aaron was not just a butcher. He was running an illegal operation, selling exotic animals to the highest bidder. His butcher shop was a front for his true business, trafficking in rare, endangered creatures. Kezia's stomach churned as she realized the depths of his deception. As if on cue, Aaron walked into the back room, speaking softly on the phone. Kezia listened, her heart pounding, as she overheard fragments of the conversation. He was planning to move Kezia to Florida, convincing her to run a new shelter there. But Kezia's growing sense of dread told her the truth. This shelter wasn't real. It was just a cover for his animal trafficking operation. Tutu's instincts had been right all along. The monkey had sensed Aaron's true nature and had been trying to protect Kezia from him. She had followed Aaron, exposing his hidden plans, and now it was clear that Kezia was in more danger than she had ever imagined. Tutu was the only one who knew the truth, and Kezia had to trust her. The stakes were higher than she realized, and the bond between her and Tutu had never been more important. Aaron had been persistent, his words always smooth and convincing. He had come up with a perfect plan. Kezia would join him on a short trip to Florida to visit a larger animal shelter. The idea was enticing. Kezia had always dreamed of expanding her work, reaching more animals, and making a bigger difference. Aaron told her this shelter would be the perfect place for her to grow, where she could spread her love for animals even further. It seemed like the perfect opportunity, one Kezia couldn't resist. Despite Tutu's strange behavior in the days leading up to the trip, Kezia pushed her concerns aside. The little monkey had been acting restless, following her everywhere with an intensity Kezia wasn't used to. She had even started hiding in corners, watching Aaron with an unsettling focus. Kezia thought it was just Tutu being clingy, maybe sensing that Kezia was going away for a few days. But deep down, something didn't feel quite right. Still, Kezia tried to calm herself. After all, Aaron had been so kind to her, and everything he'd promised seemed so genuine. But as Kezia began packing for the trip, Tutu's behavior became even more frantic. The monkey clung to her leg, refusing to leave her side. She refused to eat, growling softly at anyone who came too close to Kezia. It wasn't like Tutu to act this way. Kezia tried to comfort her, but Tutu wasn't having it. She even started hiding Kezia's travel documents, stealing them from her desk, and hiding them in strange places around the cottage. Kezia was confused and frustrated, but she couldn't understand what was going on. Why was Tutu acting so strange? Why did she seem so afraid? When Kezia finally gathered her things together, she noticed something alarming. Her passport, her flight tickets, and other important papers were missing. She retraced her steps, but they were nowhere to be found. She searched the entire cottage, growing more anxious with every passing minute. She hadn't misplaced them. Tutu had hidden them. The little monkey had been trying to stop her from leaving. Aaron was already packing his own suitcase, seemingly unaware of the turmoil brewing inside Kezia's mind. Tutu's strange behavior had unsettled her more than she wanted to admit. But when Tutu lunged at Aaron's suitcase and sank her teeth into the fabric, Kezia couldn't ignore it any longer. The monkey was trying to warn her, Something wasn't right, and Kezia couldn't ignore her instincts anymore. Despite her growing unease, Kezia convinced herself that everything would be fine. It was just her nerves, she told herself. There was no reason to think that Aaron was anything but trustworthy. But deep down, she couldn't shake the nagging feeling that something dangerous was waiting for her. She wanted to ignore it, but she couldn't. On the morning of the trip, Kezia and Aaron packed the car and drove to the Savannah airport. The sky was overcast, and the air felt heavy, almost as if the world itself was holding its breath. Tutu, who had been unusually quiet, followed them to the car, her small eyes filled with something Kezia couldn't quite place. She was silent, but her movements were purposeful. This wasn't just a goodbye. Tutu was trying to tell her something. Kezia hesitated as she walked through the parking lot with Aaron. But she didn't have time to think about it. She was already too far in. Then, just as they were about to head inside, something unexpected happened. Tutu, who had been left behind at the cottage, suddenly appeared, running full speed toward them. Kezia's heart skipped a beat. Tutu was supposed to be back at the house. Without warning, Tutu ran past them and toward Aaron's car. Kezia tried calling out to her, but Tutu didn't stop. The monkey's eyes were locked onto the vehicle, her small hands reaching for the door. Kezia followed, unsure of what Tutu was doing, but feeling an overwhelming sense of urgency. To Kezia's shock, Tutu climbed up to the car, her tiny hands moving quickly as she unlocked the door. It wasn't possible, but somehow Tutu had managed to open the car. Kezia stood frozen as the monkey darted inside, tugging at something in the back seat. With a heart racing in her chest, Kezia approached the car, trying to make sense of what was happening. As Kezia peered inside, her blood ran cold. The back of the car, which she had assumed was empty, was filled with cages, small, cramped cages, each holding a different exotic animal. The animals were terrified, their eyes wide with fear, their bodies pressed against the bars. Kezia's stomach twisted with horror as she realized the truth. Aaron hadn't been the kind-hearted man he seemed to be. He had been lying to her all along. His animal shelter in Florida wasn't a sanctuary for rescued creatures. It was a front. Behind the kindness and charm, he had been running an illegal animal trafficking ring. And now she was caught in his web. Tears welled in Kezia's eyes as the weight of the truth crashed down on her. How could she have been so blind? How could she have trusted him? But it wasn't just her trust that had been betrayed. It was the trust of every animal she had ever worked to save. Kezia felt a deep pang of guilt and sorrow as she realized that she had almost walked right into Aaron's trap. Tutu had known all along. The little monkey had sensed the danger and had been trying to protect her from the moment they met. Now, standing in the parking lot, surrounded by the terrified animals, Kezia knew that there wasn't turning back. She had to stop Aaron. But time was running out. The moment had finally come. Kezia stood in the airport parking lot, her heart racing, as Tutu, with her sharp instincts, had uncovered the truth about Aaron. With no time to waste, Kezia pulled out her phone and dialed the police, her hands trembling as she explained the shocking discovery of Aaron's illegal animal trafficking ring. The police assured her they would act quickly. Minutes later, the sound of sirens filled the air. Kezia watched as several police cruisers pulled into the parking lot, their officers stepping out, moving quietly but with purpose. The officers were careful, but Kezia knew this was it. Aaron's facade was about to come crashing down. She stayed behind the cars, watching him, hoping he wouldn't notice what was unfolding. Aaron had no idea that his carefully curated image as the charming butcher was about to shatter. He was still unloading his car, completely oblivious. The officers moved swiftly and silently. Before Aaron could say a word, he was surrounded, handcuffed, and led toward a police vehicle. The arrest was made without incident, but for Kezia, it felt surreal. She couldn't believe this was happening so quickly. The man she'd trusted had been exposed for the criminal he truly was. Kezia stood in the parking lot, watching Aaron being driven away. A mix of emotions swirled within her, relief that he was no longer a threat, but also sadness for the betrayal she had suffered. And yet, through it all, there was one feeling that stood out above the rest: gratitude. Gratitude for Tutu, who had seen the truth before anyone else. Tutu's instinct had been spot on from the very beginning. If it weren't for her, Kezia might have never known what Aaron was truly capable of. The news of Aaron's arrest spread like wildfire. By the time Kezia arrived back at her cottage, local news stations were already reporting on the dramatic turn of events. It wasn't just a local story. The press quickly caught on, and the details began to unfold on a national scale. The criminal that had fooled so many in Savannah was now the talk of the town, and not in the way Aaron had ever expected. News outlets were quick to praise Tutu, the little monkey who had played a key role in exposing the truth. Journalists across the country began calling her a hero. People marveled at how an animal could have such sharp intuition, and how her actions had led to the unraveling of such a dangerous operation. Headlines flashed: "Heroic Monkey Exposes Animal Trafficking Ring." "Kezia's beloved monkey brings criminal to justice." The media loved the story of a small, unlikely hero making a huge difference. For Kezia, though, it wasn't about the fame or the accolades. It was about the animals. It was about stopping Aaron, a man who had used her trust to carry out his twisted, illegal business. It was about the innocent creatures who had been suffering in silence, caught in his dangerous web. And now, thanks to Tutu, those animals had a chance at a better life. The community rallied around Kezia and Tutu. Messages of support flooded in from people who had watched the story unfold and were moved by the courage and strength of the duo. People thanked Kezia for trusting her instincts and for believing in her monkey. Many expressed admiration for how she'd acted quickly, not hesitating to call the police when she realized what was happening. She had saved countless animals, and in doing so, she had helped to bring justice to Savannah. National animal rights organizations took notice as well. They reached out to Kezia, offering to provide funding and resources to help expand her animal shelter and continue her work of rescuing animals from dangerous situations. It was a turning point, a moment when everything Kezia had worked for seemed to be falling into place. But the real hero of the day was Tutu. She had been more than just a companion. She had been Kezia's eyes and ears, protecting her when she couldn't see the danger. The media began calling Tutu a local legend, with some even dubbing her Savannah's superhero. Kezia couldn't have been prouder of her little monkey. She had saved the day, and in doing so, she had proven just how powerful the bond between a woman and her animal companion could be. Though Kezia had never sought fame, the attention she received allowed her to speak more loudly about the work that still needed to be done. She took every interview, every opportunity, to raise awareness about animal trafficking and the importance of protecting animals from people like Aaron. This wasn't just about one person's story. It was about the bigger picture, about the countless animals still in danger. With the help of her newfound platform, Kezia could now do even more to protect them. As the days went by, Kezia reflected on the whole experience, grateful for Tutu's unwavering loyalty. The little monkey had been her guide, her protector, and her hero. She had a deep sense of peace, knowing that she had done the right thing, no matter how difficult it had been. It was a victory for the animals and a victory for the bond of trust between her and Tutu. In the end, Kezia knew that this was only the beginning. The fight to protect animals from people like Aaron was far from over, but now she was more prepared than ever to continue the battle, knowing that she had the support of not just the community, but also her fearless little companion by her side. Together, Kezia and Tutu had shown the world that heroes come in all shapes and sizes, and sometimes they're covered in fur and have a sharp instinct to match. Kezia stood in the heart of Savannah's town square, her eyes scanning the crowd that had gathered to celebrate her and Tutu. The energy in the air was a mix of admiration and gratitude, and though she felt a sense of accomplishment, there was something more, something deeper. She felt a quiet reflection sweeping over her as she thought about everything that had led her to this moment. It was a journey she hadn't expected, a journey that had started with hope and ended with betrayal. A few weeks ago, Aaron had seemed like the answer to everything. He was charming, driven, and shared her passion for saving animals. He had swept her off her feet with promises of helping her shelter grow, of working together to save countless animals. She had trusted him, even let her guard down. But now, everything had changed. The truth was painful. Aaron wasn't who he said he was. He had used her to further his own illegal agenda, putting innocent animals in danger for profit. She had never seen it coming, and the betrayal stung deeply. But as she stood there, in the middle of the square, with Tutu by her side, Kezia felt something shift inside her. She realized that love wasn't always what it seemed. The people we trust most can deceive us, leaving us with broken hearts. But sometimes, love comes from places we least expect, from those who show up in our lives without asking for anything in return, like the loyalty of a pet. Looking down at Tutu, who sat beside her, Kezia felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude. This little monkey had been her companion through every high and low, showing her more love and devotion than anyone else ever had. There had never been any question about it. Tutu had always been there, through thick and thin. And now, Kezia understood something she hadn't fully grasped before. True love isn't always perfect, and it doesn't always come from humans. It can come from the creatures we least expect, those who love without condition. In this moment, Kezia knew that her understanding of love had transformed. It wasn't about expecting perfection, but about embracing what is real, pure, and genuine. And sometimes that was found in the unconditional affection of an animal who, unlike people, didn't ask for anything other than your heart. The crowd's cheers pulled her from her thoughts, and Kezia knew it was time to speak. The people of Savannah had been incredible. They had supported her when everything felt uncertain, and they had stood by her through every twist and turn. Now, it was her turn to thank them and to remind them of something important. Stepping up to the podium, Kezia took a deep breath. The moment felt heavy, but she was ready to speak her truth. The crowd grew silent, their eyes fixed on her, waiting for her words. I stand before you today, not as a victim, but as someone who has been lucky enough to experience something truly beautiful. Kezia began, her voice calm but filled with emotion. When I started my work with the animals, I thought I was doing something good, but what I didn't realize was how much love would change me. What happened with Aaron was painful. It hurt deeply, and it left scars. But it also opened my eyes. It showed me that love isn't always what we think it is. Sometimes, it's not the people who say they love us, but the ones who show up for us, without hesitation. The ones who are with us, even when we're at our lowest. Kezia paused, her eyes drifting down to Tutu, who sat proudly beside her. Tutu wore a small medal of bravery given to her by the mayor himself. It was a small token, but it represented something far greater. Tutu had been the hero who exposed Aaron's dark secrets and helped bring him to justice. She was the one who had truly saved the day. Turning back to the crowd, Kezia continued, her voice growing stronger with each word. I am here today because of the love and support of this community. You believed in me, even when I doubted myself. You helped me when I couldn't see the way forward. And for that, I will be forever grateful. But more than that, I want to remind all of us that love is not just for people. It is for all living beings, whether they can speak or not. And as we move forward, I ask you to continue to show compassion, to protect the vulnerable, and to fight for those who cannot fight for themselves. The crowd erupted into applause, their cheers echoing through the square. Kezia's heart swelled with pride, not just for herself, but for Tutu and the animals that they had fought so hard to protect. This wasn't just a victory for her. It was a victory for all those who could not speak for themselves, who could not stand up and defend their rights. It was a reminder that love and compassion transcend all boundaries, human or animal. As the applause faded, Kezia stepped back from the podium, her heart full. This was more than a speech. It was a message, one she hoped would resonate far beyond this square. And as she looked down at Tutu, sitting proudly at her feet, wearing her little medal, Kezia realized that the greatest lessons in life don't always come from the people we expect. Sometimes they come from the ones who simply offer us their unconditional love. Kezia stood outside the gates of the shelter, gazing at the land that had once felt small, but now felt full of possibilities. The past few months had been filled with heartbreak, betrayal, and tough lessons. Yet, in this moment, Kezia felt an overwhelming sense of peace. Peace that only comes after a storm has passed, after the battle has been fought and won. Thanks to the generous donations and support from the community, Kezia was finally able to take the shelter to the next level. It was time to expand, to give more animals the chance they deserved. It wasn't just a shelter anymore. It was a symbol of hope. The mission was clear: protect, nurture, and save those in need. It was the work Kezia had dedicated her life to, and now it was growing. Kezia wasn't alone on this journey. Tutu, her ever-loyal companion, had become an integral part of everything. The monkey who had once simply been a friend had become a symbol of the shelter's mission. Tutu's unwavering loyalty and fierce love for every creature who walked through the shelter's doors made her more than just a pet. She was the heart and soul of the place. Each day, Tutu greeted the animals, showing them that they were safe, that they were loved, and that they mattered. And when a new animal arrived, whether it was a bird with a broken wing or a dog, too scared to trust anyone, Tutu made sure they felt welcome. The bond between Kezia and Tutu was inseparable. They had weathered so much together, and now they were ready to help even more animals. One afternoon, as Kezia was overseeing the shelter's expansion, something caught her eye: a small, scruffy puppy wandering alone by the gates. It was clear this little one had been abandoned, and its sad eyes spoke volumes. Kezia's heart instantly melted. She couldn't imagine how frightened the puppy must have been, but she also knew it wouldn't be alone for long. Kezia scooped the puppy up into her arms, cradling it close. As she walked toward the shelter, Tutu hopped along beside her. The two of them had seen so much together, and now it seemed that Tutu could sense the new addition. When they entered the shelter, Tutu's curiosity was piqued, and she immediately went to greet the puppy, sniffing it gently. The little puppy, once unsure and fearful, began to wag its tail. It was as if Tutu knew exactly what the puppy needed: a place to belong, a home. Tutu was so much more than a pet. She was a protector, a guide, and now a welcoming committee for every animal who came through the shelter's doors. Kezia watched in awe as Tutu sat proudly beside the new puppy, both animals looking up at her with trust and affection. At that moment, Kezia knew she had made the right decision. The shelter was more than just a place to house animals. It was a family, a community built on love and care. The work would never be easy, but with Tutu by her side and the support of the community, Kezia was ready for whatever came next. The puppy, so small and vulnerable when it first arrived, was now safe. It had found its place, just as Kezia had found hers, and Tutu, always by her side, had shown once again that love and loyalty are the greatest gifts of all. With the shelter expanding and more animals being rescued every day, Kezia could feel that this was only the beginning. There would be more animals to save, more lives to change, and more lessons to learn. But now, Kezia felt ready. She knew that she and Tutu would face whatever challenges lay ahead, as long as they had each other. As the sun dipped low, casting a warm glow over the shelter, Kezia looked at Tutu, sitting proudly beside the new puppy. Her heart was full. She had learned so much from the journey they'd been on. She'd learned that love doesn't always come in the forms we expect. Sometimes it comes from the most unexpected places: the loyalty of a pet, the trust of an animal in need. And she had learned that when we listen to our hearts, when we trust in the bonds we share, miracles happen. The message was clear in Kezia's mind as she watched the animals play together in the yard. Always trust your instincts. Never underestimate the bond between humans and animals. And believe in the power of love and loyalty to transform the world. Kezia smiled as she looked down at Tutu, the small puppy now nestled beside her. Together, they had made a difference. And together, they would continue to change lives, one animal at a time. And that's a wrap on today's heartwarming journey. Kezia and Tutu have shown us the true meaning of loyalty and love. Remember, no matter how dark the world may seem, there's always hope and light when we trust in our instincts and the bonds that truly matter. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to like, comment, and share it with your friends. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel so you never miss out on more powerful stories like this. Until next time, stay kind, stay compassionate, and remember, the greatest miracles often come from the unlikeliest of places. See you in the next video.